I think with that, we're ready to review the movie of the week, Kramer versus Kramer from 1979, the Best Picture winner from 1980. A movie that I've heard about for a long, long time, directed by Robert Benton, starring Dustin Hoffman, Meryl Streep, Jane Alexander, Justin Henry, Howard Duff, which I think is the lawyer. That's pretty much all the people that are like necessary, I think, because your real star is going to be Dustin Hoffman and the young boy Billy, who is played by Justin Henry. I don't know if he's done anything since then. Oh, he was in 16 Candles. He's Mike Baker in 16 Candles.
What?
Holy cow. I did not know that. That is crazy. That's the guy, right? Like, that's the guy that she's in love with? I mean, I could be wrong, but man, like... Corey doesn't know either?
Yeah, well, 16 Candles is not my favorite.
Ah.
It's good, but it's not my favorite. Not even... Ducky, even though I love Anthony Michael Hall, and I always say his name backwards, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
I think you were right.
No, I don't think... No, he's not the main guy that she's in love with. It looks like he might have been, like, the little brother or something.
Oh, yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. I can kind of picture that. I was thinking it was too close in age to be that guy. But, all right. Well, real quick, let's read the plot summary. Ted Kramer's wife leaves her husband... leaves him. Man, this is written poorly. Allowing for a lost bond to be rediscovered between Ted and his son, Billy. But a heated custody battle ensues over the divorced couple's son, deepening the wounds left by the separation. I gotta say, I thought the divorce was gonna be like the whole movie.
Me too! And I was like, this is gonna be boring. And it wasn't that at all.
No, the divorce is like the third act, and not hardly any screen. Like, I was expecting kind of a procedural, and it was not that. It was more about him learning to be a single father and trying to... there's we'll get into a lot of it in spoilers, because I'm sure most of it is spoiler-ish. Kramer versus Kramer. Corey, what are your initial thoughts?
Pretty much, I was just really glad that it was not just the whole court case. I need to see more Dustin Hoffman films, and also Meryl Streep. I always feel like when I'm thinking about important actors, I'm like, oh my god, I haven't seen any of their movies, and then I look at their, credits, and I'm like, oh, and you've seen like 20. But, like, I haven't seen The Graduate.
I have.
And I really want to see that. I haven't seen Tootsie, and I really want to see that. So, I enjoyed it.
God, he's been acting for so long.
Yeah, dude, he's been friends with Gene Hackman. I was reading his facts. And he's been friends with Gene Hackman since like 1956 or something, since he was like 19 years old.
Well, now, I saw Rain Man in the theater.
I didn't see it in theaters, but I did see it.
I mean, I was far too young, but I did see it in the theater. Didn't fully understand it, and I've been actually wanting to rewatch it because I think I would get more from it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Meryl Streep, I've seen a lot of her modern stuff. I don't think I've seen any of her pre-90 movies. And I'm not... I think the first time I became aware of her was Devil Wears Prada, which is sad. Like, I'm saying that now.
Movie.
Really? It's actually really good. But, I think that was the first time I was, like, very much... Like, I'd heard the name or whatever, but I think that was the first time, like, I knew I was watching a Meryl Streep... It's not even really her movie. It's really Anne Hathaway's movie. But that she was, like, a major point. Yeah. And, I've seen several of her modern things. Like, I think I skipped Ricky and the Flash, but I think I've seen most of the other films she's in. I loved her in The Post this year. I am one of the few people that I've heard say they like Into the Woods, but I like Into the Woods. And
that's right. She was in Suffragette.
Yes, but very, very small part in Suffragette. Like, super small part. She shows up for, like, one scene. She's, like, the woman that everyone looks up to, but she's not really in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I haven't... I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox. I know you have too. And yes. Julie and Julia.
Yes, I love Julie and Julia. In fact, big fan of that movie.
Long.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. It might have... Maybe I did notice, and it's just been too long.
We've both talked about this. We need to just watch The Hours.
Yes, The Hours is high on my list of movies to see. I really want to see Manhattan, which is a Woody Allen film that she stars in, and I just have not watched.
It just creeps me out.
I know, but I really liked Annie Hall. And this movie is one of my most shamed Gap movies. Is the Deer Hunter?
I haven't seen it either, but isn't it like 27 hours long? Really, I think it's like 2.5 or 3 or something.
Yeah, 3. Oh my god,
3 hours and 3 minutes. So it is practically 27. Yes,
but it's a movie that we all need to see. It has apparently.
Robert De Niro
And Christopher Walken.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, I've never seen Sophie's Choice, which sounds like a really, really hard movie to watch, which is why I've not gone to it. But and then I know she's got another couple that I have been meaning to see. I think I saw Postcards from the Edge, actually, now that I'm looking at that one. Death Becomes Her I saw when I was a kid. Man, she's in so many movies.
Yes.
I don't think I could ever watch Bridges of Madison County.
I saw that one in theaters, and I loved my grandmother, but I didn't like her that day. Because she took me to this movie, and my grandmother is how I got to see a lot of inappropriate movies. Not saying that Bridges of Madison County really is, but, you know, like, I still think that cheating is wrong and everything, but I just remember having that very black and white, like, how are you watching this movie? How can you even like them? They're horrible people. Like, I was just, I don't know, my sense of whatever
right and wrong
was just...
I want to see AI, because that's a Steven Spielberg film. It's Stanley Kubrick's script. Adaptation I want to see really bad, because that's Charlie Kaufman and Nicolas Cage playing a Charlie Kaufman character. But yeah, so I've seen several, but I've missed several of her films. The same thing with Dustin Hoffman. I would say I've seen 3 of his biggest, with now knocking Kramer versus Kramer out, because I've seen Kramer versus Kramer, seen The Graduate, and I've seen Rain Man, which are all huge films for him. I love the connection he has with his son in Kramer versus Kramer. I love some of the sequences that the movie does to show the progression of things that I think are all spoiler related. But the movie opens with, you see Meryl Streep packing a bag, and it's very clear she's getting ready to leave. And there's a very sad moment where she's saying goodbye to her son, or saying goodnight to her son, but he doesn't get that she's like saying goodbye, like she's leaving. And her husband Ted, which is Dustin Hoffman, when he comes home, is completely taken by surprise, but not, which we kind of get the vibe that they have had problems in the past, but usually she comes back.
Yeah, I didn't feel like he thought this was going to be like permanent.
Yeah, and he didn't do anything wrong. Like, I would say neither party is a villain. I mean, I'm not saying he's innocent, but it's not, he doesn't beat her, he's not an alcoholic. It's not like they made this both, or one or the other is the villain.
Where you can
he has prevented her from being anything more than a housewife, is what we're basically told. And that was enough to make her unhappy. And she needed to find happiness. And it's hard to fault somebody for, if you're depressed, looking to not be depressed. I mean, obviously there you can side, like, she left her son or whatever, but she leaves him and the son, and that's clearly not common, because even when she's leaving, he's like, what about Billy? Like, he looks perplexed as, like, what do you expect me to do without you here? And I think anything else would technically constitute a spoiler, but I ended up really liking this movie. I've heard a lot of things about this film. I meant to do some research. We ended up having a later night than I thought before we got to the podcast. But I've heard like that Dustin Hoffman was a complete asshole to Meryl Streep filming this. Like, he was being in method, like, almost, where he was treating her like it was his ex-wife, which I found really shocking, because I don't feel like that's ever in the movie. Like, I don't feel like there's maybe 1 or 2 moments in the movie where there's tension between them, and for the most part they're both pretty civil about everything. Like some of the harshest things that are levied at the other is by the lawyers, not by them personally, you know. There's, I think, maybe 2 scenes in the movie where there's a lot of tension between them, because even when she leaves him, there's only tension for a few moments. It's more like desperation from him than it is like hatred, you know. Like, don't leave, don't do this to me. It's not as much you know, like, I hate you. And there is a scene way later in the film where there's definitely a lot more of that tension, but like, if what I remember hearing is true, I don't understand what he was going for, because that's not the characters. Like, they're not at each other's throats in this movie like you would have I expected going into this.
Yeah.
But okay, I think that is where we need to get to spoilers.